Christopher Jordan Dorner was a former Los Angeles Police Department officer and United States Navy reservist. He was fired from the LAPD in 2008 after an internal review concluded he made false statements while accusing his training officer of excessive force. In February 2013, Dorner published an online manifesto declaring unconventional and asymmetric warfare against the LAPD as revenge for his termination. Over the next few days, he murdered 4 people and wounded 3 others. His victims included 2 police officers, along with the daughter of a retired LAPD captain who had represented him during his dismissal, and her fiancé. Authorities launched a massive manhunt and offered a $1 million reward for information leading to his capture. During the search, multiple mistaken shootings by police led to millions of dollars in civil settlements. The manhunt ended on February 12, 2013, when Dorner was cornered in a mountain cabin near Big Bear Lake, California. After a violent shootout, police deployed tear gas, which caused the cabin to catch fire. As the building burned, Dorner died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. James Earl Ray was an American criminal who became the target of one of the largest and most expensive manhunts in history after assassinating civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. Born in 1928, Ray had a long history of crime, including burglary, armed robbery, and fraud. In 1967, he escaped from prison by hiding inside a box on a bread delivery truck. Nearly a year later, on April 4, 1968, Ray carried out the attack. From a bathroom window of a nearby building, he fired a single shot, killing King as he stood on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis. Ray quickly fled the scene, abandoning his rifle and belongings before escaping in a white Ford Mustang, triggering an immediate nationwide manhunt. Over the next 2 months, he stayed on the run, moving across multiple cities before crossing into Canada. There, he stole a new identity and obtained a fake passport. Using that identity, Ray traveled across Europe, including London and Portugal, as he attempted to escape even further. To capture him, the FBI launched its largest investigation at the time, involving more than 3,500 agents and costing over $2 million. The global manhunt finally came to an end on June 8, 1968, when Ray was recognized by a passport officer and arrested at London's Heathrow Airport. He was extradited back to the United States, where he pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 99 years in prison. Eric Robert Rudolph was an American domestic terrorist and former Army soldier with strong survivalist training. Driven by extremist anti-government and anti-abortion beliefs, he became one of the FBI's most wanted fugitives. Between 1996 and 1998, Rudolph carried out 4 deadly bombings across the southern United States. His most infamous attack was at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics, where a bomb exploded in Centennial Olympic Park, killing 1 person and injuring over 100 others. He later targeted abortion clinics and a nightclub, causing more deaths and severe injuries. After being identified in 1998, Rudolph disappeared into the Appalachian wilderness of North Carolina. For more than 5 years, he survived deep in the mountains, living in caves, stealing food, and avoiding one of the largest manhunts in the region. Authorities launched an intense search operation, deploying federal teams across rugged terrain and offering a $1 million reward for information. Despite the massive effort, Rudolph remained hidden until 2003, when he was unexpectedly caught by a rookie police officer while scavenging for food behind a grocery store. He later pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty and was sentenced to multiple life terms in prison, where he remains today.
Dzhokhar Tsarnaev was a college student of Chechen descent living in Massachusetts, who, along with his older brother Tamerlan, carried out one of the most notorious acts of domestic terrorism in United States history. On April 15, 2013, the brothers planted 2 deadly pressure cooker bombs near the finish line of the Boston Marathon. The explosions killed 3 people and injured hundreds of innocent spectators. 3 days later, after the FBI released their photos to the public, the brothers went on a violent spree. They ambushed and killed an MIT campus police officer, carjacked an SUV, and engaged in a fierce shootout with police in Watertown, Massachusetts. During the confrontation, Tamerlan was killed, while Dzhokhar managed to escape on foot. This set off a massive and unprecedented manhunt. Thousands of heavily armed police officers, FBI agents, and SWAT teams flooded the area, and the entire Boston metropolitan region was placed on lockdown for a full day. The search ended when a resident discovered Dzhokhar, severely wounded, hiding under a tarp inside a boat in a residential backyard.
James Whitey Bulger was one of America's most notorious and feared organized crime bosses, ruling Boston's underworld from the 1970s through the 1990s. As the ruthless leader of the Irish-American Winter Hill Gang, Bulger built a massive criminal empire through extortion, money laundering, loan sharking, drug trafficking, and even smuggling weapons to the Irish Republican Army. He was infamous for his extreme violence and was ultimately convicted of participating in 11 murders. However, his biggest weapon was a massive secret. Bulger lived a double life as a top-level FBI informant. By feeding the government information on his rivals, the Italian Mafia, corrupt FBI agents protected him, looking the other way while his brutal reign went unchecked. In December 1994, Bulger's corrupt FBI handler warned him of an impending indictment, sparking a massive international 16-year manhunt. He completely vanished, eventually landing on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list for 12 years, where he was considered the most wanted person behind only Osama bin Laden. The FBI poured massive resources into tracking him, including funding a nationwide media campaign that purchased 30-second television public service announcements across 14 major U.S. media markets. To finally flush him out, the FBI offered a massive $2 million reward, the largest bounty the agency had ever offered for a domestic top 10 fugitive. The millions spent on the hunt finally paid off in June 2011. Thanks to the paid media campaign, a tipster spotted Bulger's longtime girlfriend, and the 81-year-old fugitive was captured outside a rent-controlled apartment in Santa Monica, California, bringing an end to one of the most exhaustive manhunts in American history. Ted Kaczynski was a mathematics prodigy who entered Harvard University at just 16 years old and eventually became the youngest assistant professor in UC Berkeley's history. But in 1969, he abruptly abandoned his academic career to live as a recluse in a remote 10 by 14-foot cabin in Lincoln, Montana, without electricity or running water. From this isolated cabin, Kaczynski carried out a deadly 17-year mail bombing campaign from 1978 to 1995. Driven by a deep hatred for industrialization and modern technology, he sent or hand-delivered 16 increasingly sophisticated bombs targeting universities, airlines, computer scientists, and industry executives. His attacks killed 3 people and injured 23 others, many permanently. Tracking this lone wolf became the longest and most expensive investigation in FBI history at the time. The UNAB task force grew to over 150 full-time personnel and even offered a $1 million reward. A 2000 government report estimated the investigation cost over $50 million, about $93.5 million today. The manhunt finally ended in April 1996, not through forensics, but because of Kaczynski himself. After demanding newspapers publish his 35,000-word manifesto, his own brother recognized the writing style and alerted authorities, bringing an end to one of the most terrifying and expensive manhunts in history. Radovan Karadzic was a central figure in one of the darkest chapters of modern European history. Originally a trained psychiatrist and aspiring poet, he rose to power as the president of the self-proclaimed Republika Srpska during the brutal Bosnian War from 1992 to 1995. Karadzic became the architect of a massive campaign of ethnic cleansing aimed at removing Bosnian Muslims and Croats from Serb-claimed territory. His most notorious crimes include directing the 44-month siege of Sarajevo, which terrorized civilians with relentless sniper fire and shelling, and orchestrating the 1995 Srebrenica massacre, where nearly 8,000 Bosnian Muslim men and boys were systematically murdered. He was later convicted of genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes, and is now serving a life sentence. After the war, Karadzic became Europe's most wanted man, evading capture for 12 years. In a bizarre twist, he hid in plain sight in Belgrade, Serbia, living under the alter ego Dragan Dobić as a New Age alternative medicine practitioner. He was finally captured in 2008 after Serbian security forces tracked him down following a tip-off from a foreign intelligence agency. Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán was the infamous leader of Mexico's Sinaloa cartel, transforming it into one of the most powerful drug trafficking organizations in the world. Under his command, the cartel built a multi-billion-dollar empire, smuggling massive quantities of cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and marijuana into the United States. He ruled through extreme violence, using heavily armed hitmen for murders, kidnappings, and torture, while bribing officials to protect his operations. But what made Guzmán legendary was his ability to escape. He lived as a fugitive for over a decade and escaped from maximum security prisons twice. In 2001, he allegedly broke out hidden inside a laundry cart. After being captured again, he escaped in 2015 through a mile-long ventilated tunnel dug beneath his prison shower, complete with rails and a motorcycle cart for a fast getaway. In another close call, he slipped through a hidden bathroom shaft and vanished into the city sewers. The cost of capturing him was enormous. The United States alone offered a $5 million reward for information leading to his arrest. In 2016, he was finally recaptured, extradited, and sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years. Authorities also ordered him to forfeit an estimated $12 billion in drug profits. Today, he is held under extreme lockdown inside ADX Florence, America's most secure, escape-proof prison. Saddam Hussein was the absolute dictator of Iraq from 1979 to 2003, ruling with an iron fist and building a powerful cult of personality. As leader of the Ba'ath Party, he eliminated rivals and maintained control through fear and repression. During his rule, he plunged the Middle East into devastating conflicts. He launched the brutal Iran-Iraq War, an 8-year conflict that caused massive destruction and loss of life. In 1990, he escalated tensions further by ordering the invasion of Kuwait. His regime became infamous for severe human rights abuses, with the deaths of at least 250,000 Iraqis. One of the most horrific was the Anfal campaign, where chemical weapons were used against Kurdish civilians, killing up to 100,000 people. After the 2003 US-led invasion of Iraq, Saddam disappeared, becoming one of the most wanted men in the world. The manhunt turned into a massive intelligence operation, tracking his family and tribal networks piece by piece. Finally, on December 13, 2003, during Operation Red Dawn, U.S. forces captured him. He was found hiding in a small, dirt-covered spider hole near a farmhouse in Ad-Dar, just outside his hometown of Tikrit. Osama bin Laden was the founder and first leader of al-Qaeda. Born into a wealthy Saudi family with ties to the royal house of Saud, he rose to prominence in the 1980s by funding and fighting alongside Afghan rebels against the Soviet invasion. In 1988, he created al-Qaeda to wage global jihad. He is most infamous for orchestrating the September 11th attacks, where hijacked planes destroyed the World Trade Center and struck the Pentagon, killing nearly 3,000 people. Before 9/11, he was already behind major attacks, including the 1998 U.S. Embassy bombings in East Africa and the 2000 bombing of the USS Cole. The hunt for bin Laden became one of the most expensive in history. The FBI alone offered a $25 million reward, but the real cost went far beyond that. His pursuit led directly to the War on Terror, including the invasion of Afghanistan to dismantle Taliban protection. In just the first 8 years, the conflict cost an estimated $243 billion. After nearly a decade of searching, the manhunt ended on May 2, 2011. U.S. Navy SEALs carried out a nighttime raid in Abbottabad, where bin Laden was located and killed.